I tell you what, time flies when you're making videos about time travel. Do you believe that time travel is possible? Do you think we've already been visited by travelers from the future? Let's look at some more stories that will make it seem like it could be a reality. My name is Danny Burke. Let's get right into the top 10 scary time travel stories, part 2. Starting off at number 10 now, we have the time travel murder. This creepy story comes from 1997, where forensic scientist Mike Silverman was working on the case of a woman's murder in London. He found biological material underneath her fingernails and presumed this was from scratching her attacker just before she died. He ran the DNA sample through the national database and bam! There was a match with someone. The only problem was the match was with a woman who had already been murdered 3 weeks before. There was no connection between the two women and nothing to suggest they had ever met. Mike found that there was no mix-up with the samples, and his best theory was that the scissors used to take the samples at the mortuary had been contaminated despite being cleaned. Other people claim this wouldn't have been possible, and that what we're really dealing with here is a mysterious feud between one or many time travelers who weren't very good at cleaning up after themselves. Coming in at number 9 now, we have Jophar Vorin. In 1851, a man named Jophar was found wandering in a German village. He spoke broken German a little bit, but said his main languages were Laxarian and Abramian. He said he was from Laxaria on the continent of Sakria, separated from Europe by a vast ocean. The other continents were Aflar, Aslar, Auslar, and Uplar. He claimed to be a Christian, although he called it Ispatian. The authorities grilled him, but he never tripped up and his languages held up as apparently real. Story goes cold after he was sent to Berlin for further study, and some people claim that the German government has been hiding further information on Jophar because it all points towards him being a time traveler from a distant future. Alright, at the number 8 spot now, we have Al Bielek. In 1988, this American man watched the Philadelphia Experiment, a movie about a supposed time traveling experiment conducted by the US on one of their ships. When he saw the movie, he claimed he remembered a repressed memory, that he was part of that real experiment that the movie was based on. He said he was part of a time traveling project and was sent to 100,000 BC and as far forward as the year 6037. He also recounted how he lived for 2 years in the future from 2749 to 2751. Right up to his death in 2011, Al was doing interviews where he discussed in great detail the future that he lived in, how society had changed, and why he was allowed by the government to share his story with everyone. Whatever you guys think of this one, it's definitely worth checking out. Alright, coming in at number 7 now, we have the Swiss watch. Switzerland is famous for making luxury watches. You'll often see them strapped onto the wrists of many rich people. However, you wouldn't expect to see one in a 400-year-old Chinese tomb, except that is supposedly what happened in 2008. Archaeologists were excavating a tomb dating to the Ming dynasty when they found what they thought was just a normal grime encrusted ring, but after wiping off the dirt they were shocked to see what appeared to be a tiny Swiss watch that fits on a ring. How did this object appear in a sealed tomb hundreds of years before its earliest invention? It was labelled an UPART, which stands for out of place artifact. Some say this is the work of a careless time traveller, other people say it's just Photoshop. In the years since its discovery, it still draws heated discussion. Alright, coming in at number 6 now, we have Andrew Basiago. This American lawyer claims that when he was growing up in the 1960s and 70s, he was part of Project Pegasus, a time travel experiment by the US government. The machines they used for time travel were built from plans found in the office of scientific genius Nikola Tesla after he died. Now he claims that he was sent back many times from a million years BC to Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, and that he's even visited the year 2045. He says that the US government has been trying to cover up the truth of its time travel technology, and that he is actually going to run for president in 2020 and then show everyone the truth if he wins. Some people say he's crazy, others say that's just what they want you to think. Who is they? I don't know who they is, I'm afraid. Okay, at number 5 now, we have the 40s car. In 1988, Strange magazine posted the story of an interview with 2 businessmen. They said that in 1969 they were driving along a deserted highway in America when ahead of them they saw an old turtleback style 1940s car. It was in mint condition and even had 1940 on its license plate. They pulled alongside it to get a better view. There was a woman woman in the driver's seat, dressed in a 1940s style fur coat and feathered hat. A small child stood in the passenger seat next to her. The woman had a look of absolute terror on her face. She kept looking everywhere in horror. The men signaled for her to pull over because she seemed like she was in distress. She finally nodded, so they overtook her and pulled over by the side of the road. They saw she was doing the same, but when they came to a stop and looked behind them, the car had vanished. They were shocked. Another eyewitness in another car had seen the exact same thing happen. Some people speculate this was an unwilling time traveler spiraling in and out of different times. Pretty scary thought. Alright, next up at number 4 now, we have the Chronovisor. In the 1950s, a priest known as Father Ernetti claimed to have built a device known as the Chronovisor, which could see forwards and backwards in time. The machine was said to be built by a team of scientists and was essentially a cabinet made of metal with tubes and dials and levers for controlling what time you wanted to look into. When you looked inside, the machine would supposedly pick up on residual electromagnetic radiation left over from past events, and that would allow you to see them. Father Ernetti claimed that he saw a number of different events, including the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. He even took this picture of that event. A lot of people claim this was a complete hoax, and towards the end of his life, Ernetti confessed that the pictures weren't real, but up to his last breath he insisted the Chronovisor was totally 100% real. Some people believe it still lies in the Vatican's hidden chambers to this day. Next up at number 3 now, we have the smartphone. This is a painting depicting Mr. William Pynchon, a fur trader born in 1590 trading with Native Americans. Everything looks pretty ordinary until you focus on this guy in the front who appears to be holding a smartphone. Many people said that the object's appearance, the way he is holding it, and the way he is looking at it means it can only be a smartphone. The painting itself isn't from that time. It was painted in 1937. However, that's still almost 7 decades before the dawn of smartphones. The painter died in 1982, leaving behind a fierce debate. Some people say it's proof of time travel, while others say it's just an iron blade, a religious text, or a mirror. What do you guys make of it? Coming at number 2 now, we have the Coso Artifact. In 1961, geologists found a strange looking lump of hard rock near the town of Olancha in California. They dated its formation to around 500,000 years ago. Inside of it was a spark plug, the ignition device used for a lot of modern day engines. Pictures were taken of the Coso Artifact and it was analysed in great detail, but still there was great confusion about where it could have possibly came from. A number of investigators came to the conclusion that the Coso Artifact must have been left by time travelers 500,000 years ago, either by accident or as a clue for us. Critics say that the dating methods used were flawed or totally non-existent. If you're hoping to one day take a look at this thing for yourself, the Coso Artifact disappeared some years later, but the debate still remains. Alright, finally now at the number 1 spot we have the man from Taured. In July 1954, a Caucasian man landed in Tokyo International Airport where officers asked him where he was from. He said, Taured. They said that didn't exist and asked to see his passport, which claimed he was a citizen of Taured. He said it was located somewhere between France and Spain and that he was from a town that was over 1,000 years old. They asked him to point to it on a map and he pointed to Andorra and seemed very confused why they were calling it Andorra and not Taured. They decided to investigate it further and left him in a guarded hotel room for that night. You know how this one goes. The next morning, he was gone without a trace. There were no signs of his escape. The theories for this story range from parallel universe slips to time travelers from the future. Well, what do you guys make of all of those? I think what I enjoy most about these videos is the discussion. I love hearing what your theories are on all of these stories, which ones are true, which ones aren't, and why. Thanks very much for watching guys. My name is Daniel Burke, and I will see you all in the next video.